All right, so we're now at chapter 38 with the devotees in Calcutta, and we are at March 11th, 1885. Sorry, there was a pane of glass that was really bright, and now it's put like green light in my eyes. So it's like, I'm trying to read. Okay. On the morning of Wednesday, March 11th, Sri Ramakrishna and some of the devotees visited Balaram Bose's house. Balaram was indeed blessed among the householder disciples of the Master. Sri Ramakrishna often described him as a Rasadhar, or supplier of stores, appointed by the Divine Mother to take care of his physical needs. Balaram's house in Calcutta had been sanctified many times by the Master's presence. There he frequently lost himself in samadhi, dancing, singing, or talking about God. Those of the Master's disciples and devotees who could not go to Dakshineshwar visited him there and received his instruction. He often asked Balaram to invite young disciples such as Rakhal, Pavanat, and Narendra to the house, saying, "These pure souls are veritable manifestations of God. To feed them is to feed God himself. They are born with special divine attributes. By serving them, you will be serving God." And so it happened that whenever the Master was at Balaram's house, the devotees would gather there. It was the Master's chief vineyard in Calcutta. It was here that the devotees came to know each other intimately. M taught, it's interesting, that very statement, because Sri Ramakrishna was also making sure that a group of people would be joined with a bond of love. And he knew that that would outlive him. And so having the monastic organization, having the householders supported by them with them, was very important to him to keep up that association. So it was perfect that Balaram was there and his house was kind of available to all, so that this could happen. So we kind of see history in the making here. This is how the Ramakrishna mission was formed. It would be that huge organization we have today, is those get-togethers at Balaram's house, where people started to know each other, get to be friends with one another, and then they would meet each other outside of Sri Ramakrishna being there. They would form these tight bonds of friendship. M taught in a school in the neighborhood. He often brought his young students to visit the Master at Balaram's house. On this day, having learnt of Sri Ramakrishna's arrival, M went there at noon during the recess hour of the school. He found the Master resting in the drawing room after his midday meal. Several young boys were in the room. M prostrated himself before the Master and sat by his side. Master, tenderly, "How could you come now? Have you no school work?" M, "I came directly from school. Just now I have no important work to do." A devotee, "No, sir, he's playing truant today." All laugh. M said to himself, "Alas, it is indeed as if some invisible power had drawn me here." The Master, looking a little thoughtful, asked M to come nearer. He said, "Please wring out my wet towel and put my coat in the sun." Then he continued, "My legs and feet ache. Please rub them gently." M felt very happy to be given the privilege of rendering these services to the Master. We're often told about how important it is to do service to the Guru Seva. And so just giving him these little things to do would be obviously sweetened the rest of his life. I once asked Swami Prabhavananda, I said, "It says service to the Guru, so how can I serve you?" It's like, can I turn the heat up? Can I turn the heat down? It's like, he said, "Just do what I tell you to do. Just follow my instructions. Follow my meditation instructions." Like, oh, that's hard. Sri Ramakrishna said to M, "Can you tell me why I've been feeling like this the past few days? It is impossible for me to touch any metal. When I touch a metal cup, I feel as if I'd been stung by a horned fish. There was an excruciating pain all over my arm, but I must use a brass water jar, and so I tried to carry it after covering it with a towel. But the moment I touched the jar, I felt the same acute pain in my arm. It was an unbearable pain. At last I prayed to the Divine Mother, 'Oh Mother, I shall never do it again. Please forgive me this time.' The younger Naren often visits me. Do you think his people at home will object? He is very pure and doesn't know what carnal pleasure is. M. He is a large receptacle. Master. That is true. Further, he says he remembers spiritual things after hearing them only once. He told me, I used to weep in my boyhood because I couldn't see God. The master and M were thus talking about the young devotees when someone reminded M of his school. Master, what time is it now? A devotee, it is 10 minutes to 1. Master to M, you had better go now. It is getting late for you. You had left your duties to Latu. Where's Rakal? Latu. He has gone home. Master, what? He's gone away without seeing me? After school hours, M returned to Balaram's house and found the master sitting in the drawing room, surrounded by devotees and disciples. Among them were Girish, Suresh, Balaram, Latu, and Chunilal. The master's face was beaming with a sweet smile, which was reflected in the happy faces of those in the room. M was asked to take a seat by the master's side. Master to Girish, you had better argue this point with Narendra and see what he has to say. Girish, Narendra says that God is infinite. We cannot even so much as say that the things or persons we perceive are paths to God, are parts of God. How can infinity have parts? It cannot. Master, however great or infinite God may be, his essence can and does manifest itself through man by his mere will. God's incarnation as a man that cannot be explained by analogy. One must feel for oneself and even realize it by direct perception. An analogy can only give us a little glimpse. By touching the horns, legs, or tail of a cow, we in fact touch the cow herself. But for us, the essential thing about the cow is her milk, which comes through the udder. The divine incarnation is like the udder. God incarnates himself as man from time to time in order to teach people devotion and divine love. Girish, Narendra says, is it ever possible to know all of God? He is infinite. Master to Girish, who can comprehend everything about God? It is not given to man to know any aspect of God, great or small. And what need is there to know everything about God? It is enough if we only realize him. And when we see God himself, if we but see his incarnation. Suppose a person goes to the Ganges and touches the water. Will he then say, yes, I've seen and touched the Ganges? He will then say, yes, I've seen and touched the Ganges. To say this, it is not necessary for them to touch the whole length of the river from Hardwar to Gangasagar. Laughter. That's from the top to the bottom. If I touch your feet, surely it's the same as touching you. Laughter. If a person goes to the ocean and touches a little of its water, he has surely touched the ocean itself. Fire as an element exists in all things, but in wood it is present to a greater degree. Giri, smiling. I am looking for fire. Naturally, I want to go to a place where I can get it. Master, smiling. Yes, fire as an element is present more in wood than in any other object. If you seek God, then seek him in man. He manifests himself more in man than in any other thing. If you see a person endowed with ecstatic love, overflowing with prema, and mad after God, intoxicated with his love, then know for certain that God has incarnated himself through this person. To M, there is no doubt that God exists in all things, but his manifestation of his power are different in different beings. The greatest manifestation of his power is through an incarnation. Again, in some incarnations, there is a complete manifestation of God's power. It is the Shakti, the power of God, that is born as an incarnation. Girish, Narendra says that God is beyond our words and thought. Master, that is not altogether true. He is no doubt unknowable by this ordinary mind, but he can indeed be known by the pure mind. The mind and the intellect become pure the moment they are free from attachment to lust and greed. The pure mind and pure intellect are one, and are one and the same. God is known by the pure mind. Didn't the sages and the seers of the olden times see God? They realize the all-pervading consciousness by means of their inner consciousness. Girish with a smile. I defeated Narendra in the arguments. Master, oh no, he said to me, when Girish Ghosh has so much faith in God's incarnation as man, what can I say to him? It's not proper to meddle with such faith. Girish with a smile. Sir, we are very free and easy with our words. But M is sitting there with his lips shut tight. What in the world is passing through his mind? What do you say about it, sir? Master with a laugh. There is a common adage that tells people to beware of the following. A man with a loose tongue, a man whose mind cannot be fathomed even by an expert diver, a man who sticks the sacred tulsi leaf in his ears as a sign of holiness, a woman wearing a long veil to proclaim her chastity, and the cold water of a reservoir covered with green scum, by bathing in which one gets typhoid fever. These are all dangerous things, with a smile. But it is different with him. He is a serious man. All left. Chunilong. People have begun to whisper about M's conduct. The younger Naren and Babaram are his students, as are Naren, Paltu, Purna, and Tej Chandra. The rumor is that he brings these boys to you, and so they neglect their studies. The boys' guardians hold M responsible. Master, but who would believe their words? They were all talking when Naren entered the room and bowed low before the master. He was a student 17 or 18 years old and of fair complexion. He was dearly loved by the master, who was very eager to see the boy and feed him. Many a time at the temple garden at Dakshineshwar, the master wept silently for Naren. He looked on him as the manifestation of Narayana himself. Girish, at the sight of Naren, there. Who told him about all this? Now we realize that M is at the root of all this mischief. All laugh. Master, smiling, stop, hold your tongue. There is already an evil rumor about him. You can see that he was worried about M's job being on the line because the parents were indeed complaining. We sent him to school and then he sends him over to this holy man. This holy man is distracting them from their studies. They should be spending all their time studying. Instead, they're meditating, talking about God, thinking about God. And so they were blaming M. And M said, well, don't you, we're supposed to teach the boys morals. What better ethical and moral education than you have by seeing a holy man? But in fact, within some time, it's like they said, can't keep doing this. You're gonna have to leave this school. That eventually happened. So he's trying to, Sri Ramakrishna's like, okay, cool it, let's not keep spreading this. The conversation next turned to Narendra, a devotee. Why doesn't he come to you now so frequently? Master, quoting a proverb, man's worries over bread and butter are simply amazing. They make even Kalidasa lose his wits, who's a famous poet. Balaram. Narendra frequently visits his friend Ananda Guha of the family of Shiva Guha. Master, yes, I've heard that also. Narendra and his friends meet at the house of government official and conduct meetings of the Brahmo Samaj there, a devotee. The officer's name is Tarapada. Balaram smiling. The Brahmins say that Ananda Guha is a very egotistic man. Master, never listen to what the Brahmins say. He's a Brahmin himself and he's saying that. Never listen to what the Brahmins say. You know their nature very well. If a man doesn't give them money, they will call him bad. On the other hand, if a man is generous to them, they will call him good. All laugh. I know Ananda. He's a good man. The drawing room was full of devotees. The master wanted to hear some songs. At his request, Tarapada sang about Krishna. O Keshava, bestow thy grace upon thy luckless servant here. O Keshava, who dost delight to roam Vrindavan's glades and groves. O Madhava, our mind's bewitcher. Sweet one, thou dost steal our hearts, sweetly playing on thy flute. Chant, O mind, the name of Hari. Sing aloud the name of Hari. Praise Lord Hari's name. O thou eternal youth of Vraja, tamer of the fierce Kaliya, slayer of the afflicted sphere, beloved with the arching eyes and crest with arching peacock's feather, charmer of Sri Radha's heart, Govardhan's mighty lifter thou, all garlanded with sylvan flowers, O Damodara, Kamsa's scourge. O dark one who does sport and bliss with sweet Vrindavan's gopi maids. Chant, O mind, the name of Hari. Sing aloud the name of Hari. Praise Lord Hari's name. Master to Girish. Ah, it is a beautiful song. Did you write it? Devotee. Yes, sir. He wrote all the songs for the play, the Chaitanya Leela. That's literally the divine play of Sri Chaitanya. At Sri Ramakrishna's request, Tarapada sang 2 more songs. In the first, Nitai exhorts people to share Radha's love for Sri Krishna. Come one and all, take Radha's love. The high tide of her love flows by. It will not last for very long. Oh, come then, come ye one and all. In countless streams it flows from her. As much as you desire is yours. Made all of love, she pours out love unstintingly for everyone. Her love intoxicates the heart with heavenly bliss and thrills the soul. Oh, come and sing Lord Hari's name. Drawn by her love, oh, come ye all. Next, he sang about Gauranga. Who art thou, Gaur of the golden hue, that quenchest the thirst of my soul? Thou raisest a storm in the sea of love, and scarcely can I steady my boat. This is about another song about Chaitanya. They also call him Gauranga, which means white-limbed. Once as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan, thou didst tend the cows. In thy hands thou heldest the flute that so bewitched the gopi maids. Lifting Govardhan's mount in thy arms, thou shieldest Vrindavans from ill, and at thy wounded gopi's feet humblest thyself in repentant love. Master, annoyed. Yes, he can bare his teeth at school. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was a footnote, but in fact, it's text. The devotees pressed M to sing, but M was shy and asked them in a whisper to excuse him. Girish to the master. Sir, we can't find a way to persuade M to sing. Master, annoyed. Yes, he can bare his teeth at school, but shyness overpowers him when he's asked to sing. M, feeling greatly distressed, remained speechless. Suresh Mitra, a beloved householder disciple of the master, was seated at a distance. The master cast an affectionate glance at him and said to him, pointing to Girish, you talk of having lived a wild life, but here is one you could not surpass. Suresh with a smile. Yes, sir, he is my elder brother in that respect. All laugh. Girish to the master. Well, sir, I didn't have any education during my boyhood, but still people say I'm a learned man. Master. Mahimacharan has studied many scriptures, a big man. To M. Isn't that so? M. Yes, sir. Girish. What, book learning? I've seen enough of it. It can't fool me anymore. Master with a smile. Do you know my attitude? Books, scriptures, and things like that only point out the way to reach God. After finding the way, what more need is there than books and scriptures? Then comes the time for action. The person received a letter from home informing him that certain presents were to be sent to his relatives. The names of the articles were given in the letter. As he was about to go shopping for them, he found the letter was missing. He began anxiously to search for it, several others joining in the search. For a long time, they continued the search. When at last the letter was discovered, his joy knew no bounds. With great eagerness, he opened the letter and read it. It said that he was to buy 5 seers of sweets, a piece of cloth, and a few other things. Then he did not need the letter anymore, for it had served its purpose. Putting it aside, he went out to buy those things. How long is such a letter necessary? As long as its contents are not known. When the contents are known, one proceeds to carry out the directions. In the scriptures, you will find the way to realize God. But after getting all the information about the path, you must begin to work. Only then can you attain your goal. What will it avail a person to have mere scholarship? A pundit may have studied many scriptures, he may recite many sacred texts, but if he still is attached to the world and inwardly he loves, lust and greed, then he has not assimilated the contents of the scriptures. For such a person, the study of scriptures is futile. The almanac forecasts the rainfall for a year. You may squeeze the book, but you won't get one drop of water, not even a single drop. Laughter. Girish, smiling. What do you say, sir, about squeezing the almanac? Won't a single drop come out of it? All laugh. Master with a smile. The pundits talk big, but where is their mind fixed? On lust and greed, on creature comforts and money. The vultures soar very high in the sky, but its eyes are fixed on the charnel pit. It is continually looking for charnel pits, carcasses, and dead bodies. To Girish. Narendra is a boy of a very high order. He excels in everything, vocal and instrumental music and studies. Again, he has control over his sense organs. He is truthful and has discrimination and dispassion. So many virtues in one person. To M, what do you say? Isn't he unusually good? M, yes, sir, he is. Master, aside to M. He, meaning Girish, has great earnestness and faith. M looked at Girish and marveled at his tremendous faith. Girish had been coming to Sri Ramakrishna only a short time and had already recognized his spiritual power. To M, he seemed a familiar friend and kinsman, related to him by the strong bond of spirituality. Girish was one of the gems in the necklace of the master's devotees. Narayan asked the master whether he would sing. Sri Ramakrishna sang one of the Divine Mother. Sri Ramakrishna sang of the Divine Mother. Cherish my precious mother Shama tenderly within, O mind. May you and I alone behold her, letting no one else intrude, O mind. In solitude enjoy her, keeping the passions all outside. Take but the tongue that now and again Take but the tongue that now and again it may cry out, O mother, mother. Suffer no breath of base desire to enter and approach us there, but bid true knowledge stand on guard, alert and watchful evermore. Then he sang as if he were one of the afflicted souls of the world. O mother, ever blissful as thou art, do not deprive thy worthless child of bliss. My mind knows nothing but thy lotus feet. The king of death scowls at me terribly. Tell me, mother, what shall I say to him? Again, he sang about the bliss of the Divine Mother. Behold my mother playing with Shiva, lost in an ecstasy of joy. Drunk with a draught of celestial wine, she reels and yet she does not drop, yet she does not fall. The devotees listened to the songs in deep silence. After a few moments, Sri Ramakrishna said, I have a slight cold, so I couldn't sing well. Gradually, it became dark. The shadows of the evening fell on Calcutta. For the moment, the noise of the busy metropolis was stilled. Gongs and conch shells proclaimed the evening worship in many Hindu homes. Devotees of God put aside their worldly duties and turned their minds to prayer and meditation. The joining of day and night, this mystic twilight, always created an ecstatic mood in the master. The devotees seated in the room looked at Sri Ramakrishna as he began to chant the sweet name of the Divine Mother. After the chanting, he began to pray. What was the need of prayer to a soul in constant communion with God? Did he not rather want to teach erring mortals how to pray? Addressing the Divine Mother, he said, O Mother, I throw myself on thy mercy. I take shelter at thy hallowed feet. I do not want any bodily comforts. I do not crave name and fame. I do not seek the eight occult powers. Be gracious and grant that I may have pure love for thee, a love unsmitten by desire, untainted by any selfish ends, a love craved by the devotees for the sake of love alone. And grant me the favor, O Mother, that I may not be deluded by their world bewitching Maya, that I may never be attached to the world, to lust and greed, conjured up by your inscrutable Maya. O Mother, there is no one but thee, whom I may call my own. Mother, I do not know how to worship. I am without austerity. I have neither devotion nor knowledge. Be gracious, Mother, and out of thy infinite mercy, grant me love for thy lotus feet. Every word of his prayer, uttered from the depths of his soul, stirred the minds of the devotees. The melody of his voice and the childlike simplicity of his face touched their hearts very deeply. Girish invited the master to his house, saying that he must go there that very night. Master, don't you think it will be late? Girish, no, sir. You may return any time you like. I shall have to go to the theater tonight to settle a quarrel there. It was 9 o'clock in the evening when the master was ready to start for Girish's house. Since Balaram had prepared supper for him, Sri Ramakrishna said to Balaram, "Please send the food you have prepared for me to Girish's. I shall enjoy it there." He did not want to hurt Balaram's feelings. As the master was coming down the second floor of Balaram's house, he became filled with divine ecstasy. He looked as if he were drunk. Narayan and Am were by his side. A little behind came Ram, Shuni, and other devotees. No sooner did he reach the ground floor than he became totally overwhelmed. Narayan came forward to hold him by the hand, lest he should miss his footing and fall. The master expressed annoyance at this. A few minutes later, he said to Narayan affectionately, "If you hold me by the hand, people will think I'm drunk. I shall walk by myself." Girish's house was not far away. The master passed the crossing at Bospar Lane. Suddenly, he began to walk faster. The devotees left far behind. Presently, Narendra was seen coming from a distance. At other times, the master's joy would have been unbounded at the thought of Narendra or at the mere mention of his name. But now he did not even exchange a word with his beloved disciple. As the master and the devotees entered the lane where Girish lived, he was able to utter words. He said to Narendra, "Are you quite well?" Sorry, just this crucial second. "Are you quite well, my child? I could not talk to you then." Every word the master spoke was full of infinite tenderness. He had not yet reached the door of Girish's house when suddenly he stopped and said, looking at Narendra, "I want to tell you something. This is one thing, and that is another." Who could know what was passing through his innermost soul at that moment? And on that note, we will conclude today's reading. So any questions, any discussion, any points of interest? Okay. Everyone doing all right? Everybody happy hearing the words Sri Ramakrishna? Yeah. Sarah, you look pretty good. Okay, then let us conclude with a chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you all for joining us. Next Wednesday will be the reading of the Gospel of Holy Mother at 4:30. And Saturday, we will have, following Saturday, again, a continuation of the Gospel. And then we will have a Sunday lecture here. I see a hand. Okay. Are you rocking out somebody? Okay. All right. So we won't have any lecture here this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday we will. Okay. All right. So thank you all for joining. And Jaima.